Welcome to episode 62 of the 301 show. We got a great episode on tap for you here today. The Vikings have the draft coming up in just under a week, next Thursday, when the first round of the NFL draft takes place. The Wolves and Wild this weekend will be taking their next step towards a championship as they both begin the first round of the playoffs against the Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Stars. And the best team in the American League in the MLB resides here in Minneapolis. All of that and more here on episode 62 of the 301 show.
From the land of 10,000 lakes and just as many heartaches, welcome to the 301 show. We're here to celebrate, commiserate, and maybe, just maybe, see a Minnesota team win it all. Whether you're dreaming of a Vikings Super Bowl, reliving the glory days of the Twins, or still recovering from the Timberwolves roller coaster, we've got you covered. This is the 301 show, where the North remembers and the passion never fades.
All right. If you like content like this, please subscribe to the channel for more Minnesota sports news content, as well as interviews with Minnesota athletes, both at the national level and the local level here in the community. We've got collegiate athletes that we have interviewed. We've interviewed media members and coaches too. So subscribe if you want more like that. And if you would like to do so, you can comment down below where you agree or disagree with me. We will have a question of the day at the end of the episode, so stick around for that. And then like the video if you do end up liking this content. All right, let's move on to the Nordic Report. A couple of mock drafts to go over. The Mel Kiper mock draft came out, and then a Peter Schrager mock draft came out. And there's an interesting tidbit about the Peter Schrager mock draft too, with how he picked all of the players on where they were going. And then Paul Allen had a quote about Dallas Turner and what he thinks that is going to happen there. But let's start with the Mel Kiper draft, mock draft. He has a few, we'll go over a few of the picks that he has here. So at the 101, again, the Raiders, no surprise here, are selecting. He has them selecting Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback. That seems to be almost a foregone conclusion at this point. It's kind of like Cam Ward to the Titans last season, where it was basically a foregone conclusion. But then at the 104 is where he has Jeremiah Love, the Notre Dame running back, going to the Tennessee Titans at the first round pick 4. The next pick 5 in the first round, is where he has, again, maybe my favorite player in this draft, safety Caleb Downs from Ohio State. So Caleb Downs goes to the Giants. If Caleb Downs somehow fell, then I would actually be eyeing a trade up here if he was able to fall closer to the 10 spot and maybe a little bit further past that for the Vikings. But I would absolutely love to have Caleb Downs on this Vikings team. I don't think he is going to fall that far. I think Mel Kiper is probably right here where he is gone in the first 5 to 10 picks, probably closer to the top 5 too. But then go down here at the 118, the first round pick 18, the Minnesota Vikings select the safety out of Oregon, Dylan Thieneman. So Dylan Thieneman, again, I think I saw somewhere too that that Thieneman is the third most mocked player to a single team in this entire draft, and that includes Fernando Mendoza being the number one pick and being by far and away the number one mock player to a singular team. So Dylan Thieneman seemingly going to be a Minnesota Viking here based off of the Mel Kiper draft. We go to Peter Schrager, who's on NFL Network and now is over at ESPN. His write-up here before he actually gives his picks is he says, while I was in Phoenix at the annual league meeting last week, this is a few weeks ago now, I spent a lot of time talking to sources and trying to get the latest intel on what teams might do with their first round picks. What follows is my first mock draft of the 2026 class. These 32 projections are based on what I am hearing rather than what I would personally do at each slot. Nothing is set in stone quite yet, which is why I'll have my second mock draft in 2 weeks. But for now, this is my best guess for how things could play out. So he is going using his, connections and his insider information basically, and he is going with what he is hearing, not necessarily what he would do. So again, at the 101 with the Raiders, Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback from Indiana. So that, again, is basically all but confirmed at that point. I think it's pick 2 where the draft actually starts here and in this one. So the Jets have picked 2 here at the 102. He has the Jets taking David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. And that means that Arvell Reese, the linebacker / edge from Ohio State, will fall to the 103 for the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of people have Arvell Reese going at number 2. A lot of people think he is the second best player, or maybe the best player in this draft, not accounting for positional value. But then Jeremiah Love also goes to the Titans at the pick 4 in the first round. In Schrager's mock draft here. But then the surprising one, and another one I am bringing up here for a reason because I absolutely love this player. The Cowboys at pick 12 are selecting safety Caleb Downs from Ohio State. That is when I think I would at least be on the phone if I was in the Vikings front office making a call and just seeing what it would take to trade up to that area of the draft. I think it would probably end up being too much. I might need him to fall closer to 15, but I think you have to, at the very least, look at trading up and just seeing what it would take to trade up for a Caleb Downs. Again, that is if he falls like he does in this mock draft here. But then you fast forward to 6 picks here with the 118, and Peter Schrager has the Vikings selecting Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety out of Toledo. So again, I think no matter who the safety is, I think the big thing we're seeing here is that the Vikings are likely to take a safety at pick 18. A lot of these mocks have them sticking and picking at 18 and not moving up or down. But at pick 18, it's Emmanuel McNeil Warren. I think the big thing here is a lot of people think that because Harrison Smith is not coming back, they need a safety, which would be true. But I don't think that just because he doesn't come back doesn't mean that you would not draft a safety. Like if he comes back, that doesn't mean you're going to draft a safety or not draft a safety. I think you could start preparing for Hitman's eventual departure at this point. But I think even if Harry, and I would actually love for him to come back one more year and not so much on I think he would be a game-changing player from his physical standpoint, but just how much he knows the game and how much he could pass on to a safety that they draft here. It's almost like you're getting another assistant coach at this point. I think that would be where I would love to have a Harrison Smith back at this point. And again, he has not announced whether he's coming back or not yet. So I think regardless, safety is on the board here at pick 18 for them to be drafting. And I think even if he does come back, it is very much they could, it's a very much of they're looking for the future, not just this upcoming season. But let's move on here to what Paul Allen, the voice of the Vikings radio. He's the play-by-play on the radio. He also has the show on KFan, the Paul Allen 9 to noon. So he's very plugged in with the Vikings and their front office. And I have the feeling that a lot of the times that he is speculating on things, it's because either he is actually hearing that behind the scenes or it's the team telling him to put it out. But his quote about Dallas Turner is, the Vikings want to play him, but Grenard is better than him until proven otherwise. Van Ginkel is probably and can argue the best of the three, but he and Grenard are 1A, or he says 1 and 1A, so I think he means 1A, 1B, whichever way you want to go. I'm just not sure what to do with Dallas Turner. And so from that quote, I think that, first of all, I completely agree. I think Grenard is better than Dallas Turner right now. I think Van Ginkel probably is the best of those three edge rushers. And the big question with Dallas Turner this offseason has been, what do they do? Just what do they do with a Dallas Turner? And you did give up a lot of draft capital to move up to go draft him. But at the same time, I'm like, he needs reps, but you do have two great players ahead of him that he isn't better than right now. And so I think that something needs to change here on the depth chart. And Paul Allen says, I'm not sure what they do with Dallas Turner. I think the obvious solution here is to trade Jonathan Grenard. Jonathan Grenard is wanting more money on his contract. He wants an extension, but I just think that the easiest thing to do at this point would be to trade Grenard for a first-round pick or a second-round pick. And maybe they try to go for a first or second-round pick in next year's draft class and try to his next year's draft class, from everything that I have heard from people that watch way more college football film than I do, is next year's draft class is projected to be way better than what this year's draft class is. So I think that if you could trade Grenard and get draft capital, now Dallas Turner has that paves a way for Dallas Turner to have more playing time. And I think that he would absolutely thrive. I mean, you saw him with some of the Van Ginkel injuries and just defensive injuries. Dallas Turner did get more playing time this year, and he led the team in sacks. And he was, yes, there was still some growing pains and some young talent, that young player that hasn't fully matured yet. There absolutely is still some in there, and hopefully he's working on some of that this offseason and continues to work on that in his third season in the NFL. But I think that he absolutely can take another step forward here and be not just a serviceable, but a high end edge rusher here in this B flow defense. So again, like Paul Ellen said, I do think he is the third edge rusher on this depth chart. And he is clearly number 3. And I'm not saying he's like miles behind Van Ginkel and Grenard, but I do think that there is a gap between Grenard and Dallas Turner right now. But Dallas Turner could very well end up being a Grenard or Van Ginkel level player in his career. So that being said, let's move on to predictions here. I didn't have any come off the board for the Nordic Report. Nordic Report stays at 50 correct out of 146 total predicted for 34%. That is second amongst the 4 segments. I'm assuming we'll have a bunch come off the board within the next couple of weeks with the draft coming up here. I'm sure I'll have some more draft related predictions next week too. That'll come off the board the following week. But the 3 predictions going on the board, I don't have any draft predictions for this one. I'll have season long ones that'll come off the board either at some point during the season or week 17, week 18, they'll come off the board, or some point before that. So 3 predictions here. Said J.J. McCarthy will start at least one NFL game in the 2026 regular season and or postseason. So I think I'm not going to say which team he starts for, because he very well could be traded. I think that might be a mistake by the Vikings to not give him at least one more year just to see. But I think he'll start at least one NFL game. Again, they are replacing a player that is injury prone in J.J. McCarthy with another player that is injury prone in Kyler Murray, and the backup is Carson Wentz, who is also injury prone. So I think we could see multiple quarterbacks starting games for the Vikings specifically this season again. Second prediction is that Kyler Murray will rush for 300 or more yards in the 2026 regular season, and then a wide receiver or a tight end attempts a pass in 2026. Moving on to the Wolves Den now. We've got a couple of things to go over here. The Lynx had their draft. The Wolves finished the regular season and will be moving on to the playoffs. We'll start with the Lynx here. So in the draft, they had 2 picks. First one was second overall. They selected Olivia Miles, the TCU point guard. And then at the 3rd round, the 15th pick, which is 45th overall, they selected Lonnie White, the shooting guard from Utah. So they have 2 future stars here. They also went on to with the new CBA. There's some new contracts that they can offer players for more money, and so they offered Napheesa Collier what they are calling a core offer. A core offer is reading the definition here. It says it gives a team exclusive negotiating rights to a player and comes with a baseline contract of a fully guaranteed 1-year deal worth the supermax $1.4 million in 2026, though the player can negotiate different terms. So at the very least, Collier will be making $1.4 million on a 1-year deal for the 2026 season. My guess is that she'll probably negotiate something else and probably a longer term deal. But I think that she, again, if there's going to be a player on the Lynx that gets a deal like this or more, it's absolutely going to be Napheesa Collier. She is arguably the best player in the league, much less just on the Lynx themselves. So I think that they are it's absolutely fantastic that they are doing or that they offered this, and now they can extend her for longer too. But those are the Lynx news. We'll move to the Timberwolves. They finished the season 49-33, 1 win shy of 50 wins. Excuse me, yeah, 49-53. The home record is 26-15. The away record is 23-18. The Wolves end with the 6th seed in the conference. They were the 10th team, the 10th overall team in the entire league. The Wolves also finished the season with a 118 points per game, which was 7th in the league, and 114.6 points against per game. The Wolves here are now playing the Denver Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs. They were stumbling a little bit to end the year. They lost in Detroit against the Pistons 113-108, lost in Philadelphia 115-103, lost at home to the Charlotte Hornets 122-108. They beat the Pacers in Indiana 124-104, and they beat the Orlando Magic 132-120, and they beat the Houston Rockets in Houston 136-132, and then they beat the New Orleans Pelicans 136-126 to round out the end of the season, the regular season at least. They obviously will continue their season along here in the playoffs. But the playoffs here start in Denver on Saturday the 18th, where again they will play at excuse me, I have to pull it up here. They play at 2:30 on Saturday the 18th on Prime in Denver, and then they will play at 9:30 Central Time on Monday, April 20th, against the Nuggets as well. So those two games taking place in Denver. Then they'll come home to play 2 games against the Denver Nuggets at 8:30 and 7:30. Again, them being even in the Central Time zone just means that they are further west than a lot of the other teams on the East Coast, so they are getting a lot of the later games, specifically during the week too, because they don't like to start games before 6 p.m. Eastern, or 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern on weekdays. So that is why we get a 9:30 tip-off on Monday and an 8:30 tip-off on Thursday. The rest of the game times are TBD up to this point, but they are as necessary. Games 5, 6, and 7. But again, I think the Wolves here playing the Nuggets. Again, there's panels of people making predictions. I believe it was ESPN had a panel that did it, and not a single one chose the Wolves to win. There's a couple of them that chose the Nuggets to win in 5 games, which I think is ridiculous at this point. Now, I'm not expecting the entire panel to pick the Wolves, the entire panel to go the other way and pick all completely the Wolves. I think that's ridiculous too. I think Denver is a very, very good team. But I think that they are just not in a position right now to be like, I don't think it's that close, like, or that one-sided. I think it's a lot closer than it just 100% being a Nuggets win. You know, like it's to me, it's not that simple. I think obviously, if you look back just 2 years ago, these two teams played in the second round of the playoffs, where the Wolves ended up winning in 7 games, and that fantastic Game 7 specifically too. But last year too, I think a lot of people were taking the Lakers in 5 or 6 games, and the Wolves ended up beating them in 5 games too. And I think the every year seemingly the Wolves are underrated every year. But I also don't think, like, I think they are underrated, but also I don't think that they are a championship team. I think that they can probably beat Denver at this point, but I don't think that they are going to win the championship this year, if I'm being completely honest. I think there's a lot of other teams. I think probably it's going to be OKC again out of the West. I think the Spurs obviously are the 2 seed, but I think that they are a year or 2 early on that part of it. Like, I think they're give them just a little bit more time, and Wemby a little bit more time to grow as a player. Maybe not grow as a human being, because he is already a massive human being, but give him some more time to get better and progress. But I think the Wolves, just with how inconsistent they have been all season long, and how streaky that they have been, they very well could get on a hot streak here. But I think that they are that they're just not consistent enough in my mind to actually compete for a championship this year. I think there's too many nights where the best players seemingly take the night off, while not actually taking the night off. But like Ant, has said that they don't, or Finch has said that they don't look at the game plan. I think Ant said it too, but Finch said that they sometimes, the players ignore the game plan, and Ant said back, I believe it was in early December, was saying that they just want the playoffs to start, and that is not the greatest mentality to have, because you first of all, that mentality should come from like a Kobe and Shaq and the Lakers, like the Kobe Shaq Lakers, or the Michael Jordan Scottie Pippen Bulls, like teams that have actually won the championship before. Like, it'd be way more okay in my mind if Shea said that we're just looking for the playoffs at this point, because we know, like, they have proven that they can win a championship by getting in. The Wolves haven't done that, and I think part of it too is they. No, I'm also not saying that, like, I don't think Kobe or Jordan would ever say that, because I think they'd want to win every single night, and they don't care if it's, a team that's tanking. They're gonna try to, like, still go hard every single game. And I just think that part of it too is you form these habits in the regular season, and obviously the regular season is 82 games, and you span, from October, mid-October to mid-April in the regular season, and you end up, like, over those 6 or 7 months there, you end up just not, like, forming habits, and not going hard every single night can be a habit that gets formed as you as you continue to play throughout the regular season. So to me, that is the number one reason that I am actually worried about this team in the playoffs, and especially against the Nuggets. Again, the Nuggets are one of those teams that won a championship a few years back, and they still got that same core together, and they can say, we're actually just waiting for the play. Like, that's a team that can wait for the playoffs, because they'll turn it on in the playoffs here. But I think that the Wolves are absolutely not one of those teams just yet. Could they turn into one of those teams? Absolutely. I think in a few years they could absolutely, within the next few years, they could absolutely be one of those teams that can take, quote unquote, the regular season off. But I think if they go the other way, if they do get swept or lose in 5 to the Nuggets, I would not be shocked if we saw some major changes to this roster and maybe even the coaching staff too this offseason with Tim Conley. And I think it wouldn't surprise me too if Conley just made a massive move or two in the offseason, regardless of how the playoffs go. But it would surprise me if they didn't make a massive move in the offseason if they lost in 4 or 5 games to the Nuggets in the first round. But yeah, we'll look at the predictions here. I realized that I made a mistake on my graphic here. We'll get to it. It's the very last prediction is actually incorrect. So I predicted here, the first couple predictions are Ant wins a major award this season. He is ineligible to win an award. The Wolves win 53 plus games this year. They did not. They won 49. I said the Wolves win at least 3 of their next 4 games. That was incorrect. Said Ant drops 40 in the next, in at least once in the next 4 games. He did not. Said the Wolves have a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. They are the 6th seed. They're taking on a top 3 seed in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. But they did not have a top 3 seed in the first round. Said the Lynx draft Lauren Betts, Awa Pham, or AZ Fudd. They did not. They drafted Olivia Miles with the first pick, or the second pick, their first pick, the second pick in the draft. AZ Fudd did go number 1 overall to the Dallas Wings. And then last 2 predictions here. Said the Wolves end the regular season a 3+ game winning streak. They ended on a 2-game winning streak. And then the final prediction, again, this is where it was incorrect. The graphic is incorrect. I said the Wolves win 50+ games in 25-26. They won 49. So that means my total here is 48 total, or 48 correct, 156 total predicted for 31%. The 3 predictions coming on the board here. The Wolves versus the Nuggets in the first round goes at least 6 games. Said Ant averages 30+ points in the first round. I think if they want a chance to win this, I think he is going to have to start scoring more and have the 30+ point average. Said Rudy has a playoff game with 17+ rebounds. Doesn't need to be in the first round. If they make it out of the first round without one, then and has one in the second round, then this comes off the board as correct. All right, now moving on to target field talkers here. The Twins have improved to 11-8 on the season. They are first place in the American League Central Division. They are not in the wild card race right now because, again, they lead the division. The hitting statistics, they're hitting .232 as a team, which is 19th. They are getting on base .333, or their on base percentage is a .333, which is tied for 9th. Their slugging percentage is a .399, which is 6th in the league. Their on base percentage, or the on base plus slugging percentage, is .732, which is 8th in the league. They have 103 runs scored, which is 6th. Home runs sit at 26, which is 3rd in the league. They have 82 walks on the year, which is 8th in the MLB. The strikeouts is sitting at 21st fewest. So again, the number 1 would have the fewest amount of strikeouts, and number 30 has the most amount of strikeouts at the plate. And they're sitting at 21st with 172. Stolen bases is 13, which is right in the middle at 15. The pitching and fielding rankings here are as follows. The ERA is sitting at 4.26, which is 20th in the league. The whip is 1.41, which is 24th. They have 154 strikeouts on the year, which is 20th in the league. Walks is 68 walks, which is tied for 15th, right in the middle there. Errors is they have 10 errors on the season, which is tied for 16th. Fewest, again, that's another one where it's number 1 is the fewest amount of errors, number 30 is the most amount of errors. Fielding percentage is an 890 or 985, excuse me, which is tied for 16th. Since we last spoke, they've again did not upload an episode last week, so they've played quite a few games here. They played the Kansas City Royals, losing 2 out of 3 there. They had their home opener and their home opening series, which they lost 2 out of 3 to the Tampa Bay Rays. They won 10-4, lost 7-1, and then lost 4-1 in 10. Then they hosted the Detroit Tigers, where they swept the Tigers 7-3, 4-2, 8-6, 3-1. They absolutely battered around Valdez and Skubal. And then traveled north of the border to Toronto to take on the Blue Jays. They lost the first game 10-4. They won the second game 7-4, and then they won the third game 8-2. And they played the Boston Red Sox here at Target Field, where they won 13-6 in the first game against Garrett Crochet on the mound. In game 2, they won 6-0, and then they lost game 3 9-5. If we look ahead here, they got 3 games against the Cincinnati Reds from the 17th, which is today, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 17th to the 19th. And then they have Monday off, where they are traveling to New York to take on the Mets, where they play a 3-game series from the 21st to the 23rd, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. The couple of things here, a couple of talking points. We'll get to there's an ABS challenge system update here. Maybe that'll become part of our rankings at some point. But we've got an update just on how some of the players are doing. If we look here though at just how they have been playing, I mean, they have been absolutely raking from that Detroit series on. But the unfortunate part is they are giving up a lot of runs at the same time. So they are winning high scoring games. And I don't think that is sustainable over the entire season. I also don't think that is sustainable in the playoffs. So I think that they are going to need to get more out of their pitching staff, which the good news is that they have gotten a lot from a lot of their starters. The starters are going longer. Again, part of me is a little bit hesitant to say that's because the starters are pitching super, super well, because I just think it's more of they don't trust the bullpen fully. And the obviously the big thing is Taj Bradley so far. They got him in the Griffin Jacks trade at the deadline last year, and they are absolutely reaping the benefits of that trade thus far this season with how well he has pitched so far. He's got a sub-2 ERA this year. As I'm pulling up his stats here, just to fully. So he has 4 starts so far this year. In those 4 starts this season, he has a 1.25 ERA, is a 1.25 WHIP. So far, he is in just 4 games, he's contributed to a 1.3 wins above replacement, which is already his second highest in his career. His highest was in 2024. He pitched 25 games with a 1.6 WAR. He's got a 29 strikeouts in with 8 walks in 21 2/3 innings pitched. He's only given up 3 runs in those 21.2 innings pitched as well. He is 3-0 on the season, has 1 no decision. But again, he is looking very, very good so far this season. I think he is, I think probably the best piece in of any of the return that they got at the deadline last year, the Twins, where he is, he is just, I think, by far and away the best player that they got back in any of those trades. If we look here too at the other side of the ball, I guess the other side at the plate, the Twins are playing very, very well, and that is with Luke Keeschall and Byron Buxton struggling a little bit too. And I'm not saying that they've been playing terribly, but Luke Keeschall's hitting .222. He's struck out 11 times in 19 games played. His one home run, he's got 2 doubles, 9 RBIs, and just he's playing, I would say, fine, I guess. It's just league average right now, but you obviously expect him to be playing a lot better than he has been so far this year. But the other guy here so far this year has turned it around a little bit. He's doing a little bit better. He's hitting .235 on the season, that being Byron Buxton. He's got 3 home runs. He's got a triple and 3 doubles. He's struck out 20 times. He's only walked 5 times. He has 4 RBIs on the season. So again, just not closer to league average than the 5 wins above replacement he put up last season. So he is just more of gotten off to a slow start, a struggling start here. Again, he is still playing pretty good defense in the field, which is still nice to see from that standpoint. But you want him to be doing better here at this point, and you're wanting him to not wanting him. You need him to be Buxton to be playing better. He is the heart of this lineup, but at the same time, as I read the stats, the hitting stats look really, really good so far this year. But that just means that other players are coming through, and I'm just thinking, like, if they can get Luke Keeschall and Byron Buxton up to being, 2 win above replacement players and closer to just being above league average, and get them back to closer to what each of them did last year, and they might be overproduction for Keeschall last year. Some regression might be in place for both of those guys, but I think it's more likely for Keeschall. But if you can get them even close to what they were last year, this offense is absolutely going to take off. If you can, again, the guys that are hitting well now, doing close to what they are doing right now, and then Keeschall and Buxton to raise their game a little bit, this offense is going to be a good to great offense at this point, I believe. But I don't think that what is sustainable is the pitching staff. I don't think Taj Bradley's season is sustainable. I think he's going to regress a little bit. I don't think he's going to, completely fall off a cliff, but I think he's going to come back closer to a 2 ERA. Probably it'd be great if you could have him sit in the 2s for his ERA. I think that is a reasonable expectation with how he's started so far this year. I don't think that's too big of an ask for Bradley at this point, but you need more than just a couple of starters. Obviously, Joe Ryan is still being Joe Ryan. He's still doing pretty well so far this year, but you can't rely on just those guys to be your centerpiece, and then have a bullpen that's just being patchworked together at this point. You need to go get somebody for the bullpen, or well, there's not nor. You just need to go get somebody for the bullpen and maybe that is calling somebody up from AAA and like a Zebby Matthews, basically. You need something like that, whether he's in your organization or not. I think somebody needs to be added to the roster, at least in a bullpen reliever form here. So yeah, I think what we have seen and what we kind of predicted at the beginning of the season is absolutely coming true, where it's the bullpen that has been struggling the most so far this year. And I think that just needs to be improved at this point of the year. So yeah, the Twins, again, continuing to rake here. And they are doing pretty well with the ABS challenge system. I tell you what, though, Victor Carantini behind the plate so far has challenged 10 pitches. He is 8 out of he's successfully overturned 8 of the 10 challenges behind home plate. That percentage-wise is tied for 9th of all catchers behind the plate in the MLB so far this year. Cody Clemens and Austin Martin are both 3 for 4 at the plate. Josh Bell's 3 for 6 at the plate. So they've got some guys actually doing pretty well percentage-wise on the ABS challenge system. I think Ryan Jeffers behind the plate too is also doing very well. And I don't have his exact numbers, but I feel like has turned 7 or 8 pitches that were called balls into just strikeouts. And he's got a couple more that were turned into strikes after that too. So the catchers behind the plate doing a very, very good job for the Twins so far this year. And that obviously is very, very helpful for the pitching staff. And again, the fielding hasn't been great this year. They're already at double-digit errors on the season. And some of this ABS challenge system doesn't get fully factored into the defensive stuff, but if you can help your defense and pitching staff that way, that's absolutely unbelievable and can help you maybe negate some of those missteps in the field. Obviously, you want to just cut down on those naturally while also doing really well at the challenge system. Maybe you can't rely on the challenge system solely to bail you out of innings. You still need to play good defense and make the pitches when necessary too. As a team, the Twins are 57.4% correct on the overturn rate. So when they challenge, there's a 57.4% chance that they are correct. That is 12th amongst all 30 MLB teams. Maybe we add that as a stat, as a team stat into the rankings here. So yeah, that's about all I've got for the news and discussion here for the Target Field Talkers. We'll get into predictions. Got a lot of predictions coming off the board, again, just with it being early in the season. But yeah, so we've got a bunch that came off the board here. First one is that the home opener attendance is less than 25,000. It probably was less than 25,000, but we are going based off of reported attendance, which was, I believe it was in the 35 to 36,000 range. Then the second one here is that Luke Keeschel hits his first home run before the Tigers come to town. He hit his first home run in the opening game of that Tiger series, so it was just one game too late. Said Joe Ryan wins his next start. He did not, from when I predicted that. I said the home opener would be a walk-off win. It was a win, but they won 10-4. I said Pablo Lopez will start a game where he goes 7+ innings and the Twins don't allow a single run. Obviously, I'm taking the Pablo Lopez stuff off the board here. He did not, or will not pitch in 2026. We'll revisit these if somehow he does. Said Royce Lewis hits the first Twins Grand Slam in 2026. That was Tristan Gray hit the first Twins Grand Slam. I said Pablo Lopez has a sub 2.75 ERA, which, again, if I had just ended it there, I could have argued that would be correct because he wouldn't have had an ERA. ERA technically could have been 0, but I said and 25+ starts in 2026. So that is incorrect from that standpoint too. It doesn't matter about the ERA. And I said Pablo Lopez has more strikeouts in 2026 than 2025, and he was hurt in 2025, but he will not be making enough starts, nowhere near enough starts, if any. Even if he comes back, but at the very end of the season, he will not be making enough starts in 2026 to have more strikeouts than 2025. I said the Twins lose the home opening series. They did against the Tampa Bay Rays. I said the Twins scored 10-plus runs in a single game in April. They did it a couple of times. They almost did it again, too, in the second series against the Kansas City Royals, but they did it against Tampa Bay, winning 10-4 in the home opener. They did it again against the Red Sox just recently, winning 13-6. April's not even over yet, so they've already done it twice. And I said Josh Bell hits his first home run in a Twins uniform in the first 10 games of the regular season. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was game 6 or 7 maybe that he hit his first home run, so that was correct. That brings it up to 40 total correct out of 131 total predicted for 31% correct. We'll move on to the 3 coming on the board here. So the Twins will win 2+ games at Yankee Stadium in the 2026 regular season. The Twins finish as a top 10 team in the ABS challenge system in 2026. We'll go based off of percentage on that standpoint, not just number of correct ones. So based off of percentage, they will finish as a top 10 team in the ABS challenge system. And the Twins will be 5+ games below 500 at the All-Star break. I do not think that this winning this way is sustainable unless massive moves are made, mostly in the pitching and bullpen side of this. All right, moving on to the final team segment here of the 301 show, Rinkside Rundown. The Frost have not finished their regular season yet. They've got a few more games remaining, but they have officially clinched a playoff spot with a record of 13, 3, 4, and 7. They have 49 points. They're third place in the PWHL. They're likely going to finish in third place at this point of the season. They are number 1 in goals for per game with 84. They have a 14-goal lead over Montreal, who is in number 2 for goals for per game. So they're very, very high-powered offense. They have 62 goals against, which is third. Again, Montreal leads that category. So Montreal is a very, very good defensive team here. The power play is sitting at 23.7%. That is number 1 in the PWHL. No other team in the PWHL has a power play percentage over 20%. So they're over 4% more, or the power play is over 4% better than any other team. The penalty kill is sitting at 82%. That is 6th in the PWHL. The last 4 games, they played in New York against the Sirens, where they lost 4-3 in overtime. They beat the Vancouver Golden Knights at home here in Minnesota, and then they beat the New York Sirens at home 4-1 in regulation, and then they beat the lost to the Boston Fleet 3-2 in regulation in Boston. If we look ahead here, they are playing the Toronto Scepters on Sunday, April 19th at 12:30. That is their last regular season game of the season. They then play in Seattle against the Torrent on Wednesday, April 22nd at 9 p.m. And in Vancouver against the Golden Knights at 6 p.m. on Saturday, April 25th. So, again, like I said, they are officially in the playoffs. They're likely going to get the 3 seed, which means one of the top 2 teams will get to choose, or the top seed will get to choose if they want to play the Frost or the 4 seed in the first round, and the 2 seed will play the other of the 3 and 4 seeds. Again, love that this team is scoring as many goals as they are, but a little bit worried about the leakiness on the back end theirs is Nicole Hensley and Maddie Rooney both have had some struggles over the last season. But again, with them being such a high-powered offense, they do have, I believe they have three of the top five scorers in the PWHL, and it's something like 4 to 6 of the top 10 scorers in the PWHL. So again, they absolutely can score on absolutely anybody in the league. But going into the playoffs, you need to be a shutdown defensive team. So they need to improve on that end of it going into the playoffs here. But again, this is a very different season. I feel like a very different feeling than the last few seasons here for the Frost. Is the last few seasons they have been just battling to get the 4 seed, which then they end up going on taking that 4 seed and going on to win the Walter Cup the last couple of years. So I don't think they care where they're ranked as long as they, again, this is the attitude that the Timberwolves want to be, or that the Timberwolves have. This is the situation that the Timberwolves want to have with this attitude, where it legitimately doesn't matter what seed they get in the playoffs. They are going to be contending for a Walter Cup and for a championship, and they are good enough. Again, this core has held together pretty well over the first 3 seasons in the PWHL, and they have been able to keep this main core together for those years. They've extended players. They extended Maddie Rooney in the offseason, and with Kendall Coyne-Schofield, Kelly Panic, and Taylor Heisey leading the way here, I think this team is set to make and to make a run and potentially be Walter Cup champions again here in 2026 for the 3rd straight year. Again, I do like the ring of the Walter Cup belongs in Minnesota, and maybe for the first time ever, we could see both cups in the same state with the Stanley Cup and the Walter Cup. Again, I think both teams have legitimate chances. Again, I think the Frost have a better chance than the Wild do to win their cup, but I still think both teams have legitimate chances to win their respective leagues' cup at this point in the season. So again, the Frost looking to finish the regular season on a high note here as they continue to march towards the playoffs and the Walter Cup. Over on the men's side of the XL Energy Center, or I guess Grand Casino Arena, the Wild have finished their regular season with a 46-24-12 record. They have 104 points. They finished 3rd in the Central and in the Western Conference. Their goals for per game sits at 3.27. That's tied for 10th in the league. Goals against is 2.87, which is 4th in the league. The shutouts, they finished with 8 on the year. That's tied for 2nd. The power play finished 3rd in the league, which was 25.2%. The penalty kill was 16th in the league. Again, a very much better penalty kill, even from the beginning of the season, 79.8%. I think they were in the high 60s at the beginning of the season, and last year they were in the low 70s, high 60s. So very much a better penalty kill this year, and this is what I was asking for. I'm like, you don't even need to be a top 5, top 10 penalty kill in the league. You just need to be league average, and they are league average right now on the penalty kill at 16. That is right in the middle of the pack. But this is what you absolutely love to see. One of the 2 special teams units needs to be elite, which their power play is elite at 25.2%, and then the other one needs to be at least league average, if not better than that. So I think because of that gives them an opportunity to be able to compete for an actual cup, and you got to be good 5-on-5 as well, which again they are good 5-on-5. So that's more important, I think, than the special teams, but I do think the special teams are still important as well. What scares me the most, again, I've been saying it all season, is that the faceoffs are sitting at 46.6% on the year. That is 30th in the NHL. The shots per game is 29.2 shots per game, which is 7th in the league. Again, I'm not too worried about them generating shots. It's just on the other end, the shots against to are 29.4, which is 24th in the league. So they're actually allowing more shots than they are acquiring, I guess. Teams are shooting more than the Wild are on average in games. We'll get back to these two, the next two rankings. We've got two individual rankings to go over, but we're gonna look back here at the last few games of the regular season. They beat Vancouver at home 5-2. They went to Ottawa and they won 4-1 against the Senators. They beat Detroit 5-4. They beat Seattle at home 5-2. Then they went on a road trip where they lost to the Stars 5-4 in a very back and forth game. They beat they lost to the Predators in Nashville 2-1. They lost to the Blues 6-3 when half of their team was out. And then they beat the Anaheim Ducks at home in the regular season finale. They will take on the Dallas Stars, the former Minnesota team here, in the first round of the playoffs. But most importantly here, the individual rankings that I mentioned, that I think this is the biggest question going into this playoff run, however long it lasts, and especially the first round against the Dallas Stars, is who is getting the net in game one of the playoffs. And will it be Filip Gustavsson or will it be Jesper Wallstedt? Gus played more games this season. He ended up with a record of 28, 15, and 6 on the year, whereas Wally was 18, 9, and 6 on the season. Gus's save percentage was tied for 18th at 904 save percentage. The goals against average was 2.69, which was tied for 21st. He had 4 shutouts, which was tied for 3rd. Wally, like I said, was 18, 9, and 6 on the year. The save percentage for Jesper Wallstedt was 9 save percentage was a 916 save percentage, which was 2nd in the NHL. The goals against average was 2.61, which is tied for 16th. He also had 4 shutouts, which again is tied for 3rd. In terms of these two goalies, obviously, you look at just the numbers. Wally had a much better season than the Gus did in terms of the statistics, but that comes back to Gus has more experience in the playoffs. This is obviously Jesper Wallstedt's rookie season, so he is looking to prove himself still a little bit, but I personally would be starting Jesper Wallstedt in game one. That is my personal opinion here. I would be starting with him. If you start with Gustavsson, I'm calling for a very, very short leash. I think that you need to make sure that he is not he's just looked off ever since the Olympics. He's starting in that first Olympic game against Italy. I don't think he played that well, and he eventually got benched and wasn't even dressing for a couple of the last games. But I just think Gus needs to have a shorter, there's not as much room for error here. If he starts game one and gets pulled in game one, I don't want to go back to him in game two. I want to go to Wally. And if Wally struggles, I don't want to go to him for the next game. I'd rather do that. Like if they both are struggling, there's no point in continuing to throw them out there. And that was the Wild's downfall a few years ago when it was Talbot and Fleury sharing the crease. Was they had I think it was Fleury started the first couple of games and he struggled, and then Talbot came in game 5, I think, and played well, but at that point was just too little too late. or it might have been the other goalies around. It was that situation was correct, where it was just too little, too late, where the other one went in. But I don't know who the Wild are leaning towards at this point. Like, I know who I'm, again, like I said, I know who I'm leaning towards. I'm leaning towards Jesper Wallstedt at this point. And I also think if one of them is playing well, you got to stick with them. Like, you can't, they've been alternating games the regular season. I don't know if I like that if one of them is playing well in the playoffs here. I think if one of them is playing well, you got to roll with them in the playoffs, and bring in the other one if the one is struggling. I think that is the best way to do it, in my opinion, at this point. Instead of, they're both playing well, we're going to alternate them. Like, save the other one for when the guy that gets the start struggles. That is what I would do here. So, but again, I'm just a guy with a microphone. I'm not the one that is holding the clipboard making these decisions. That'll be up to John Hines here. The first game between these two teams is, as I'm recording this, tomorrow. That is the 18th of April at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. These two teams were dead even in the regular season. They both won. The two teams won both games at home. The season series was split 2-2. The first game in Dallas back in October, the Stars won 5-2. Second game in Minnesota in December, on December 11th, the Wild won 5-2. So goals for and against through the two games were dead even. And then game 3, the Wild won in overtime 2-1. And then the Stars won 5-4 just recently on April 9th in Dallas. So again, both teams have 3-goal wins over the other one, and they each have a 1-goal win over the other one. Again, both teams winning their 2 wins. Each team's 2 wins coming at home for that respective team. The Wild here in game 1, we're looking at the DraftKings betting odds. Again, I'm not a savant, so take disclaimer here. Do not take what I say seriously. But the Wild, the spread here for hockey is always a goal and a half, and the Stars open with as a goal and a half favorites. That goal and a half is plus 200 odds. So the Wild to cover the 1.5 goal spread is minus 245. So it is, but the Stars are favored to win. They're money line favorites to win. So again, basically meaning they think the real score is going to be a 1-goal game here against the or in game 1 with these two teams. If you look at the leading point getters on each team, the Wild's leading point getter here was Kirill Kaprizov with 89 points. He had 45 goals, 44 assists for those 89 points. Jason Robertson, the leading point getter for the Dallas Stars, 96 points. He had 45 goals with 51 assists on the year. Both of those two each led their teams with 45 goals. And the assist leaders were Mikko Rantanen for the Stars with 55 assists and Quinn Hughes with 48 assists. And I believe Quinn Hughes and just those 48 assists are just his assists with the Wild and not the Vancouver Canucks. I think to me, the two biggest, I guess we'll say the 3 biggest factors in this series are obviously, 1, the goaltending. Jake Ottinger is Jake Ottinger. He's an absolute stud. He did get pulled in the series last year against the Avalanche, and he after he allowed a couple of quick goals, and he is still, again, Jake Ottinger. He is arguably a top 3 to 5. I think, in my opinion, he's a top 3 goalie in the league. Obviously, I think if you look at the tandems, the backup goalie included, I think the Wild have the edge there, but the Stars aren't probably going to be. They're going to be rolling with Jake Ottinger the entire time too. So maybe the Stars backup doesn't matter. But I think the second factor in this series here between the Stars and the Wild is the top scorers for each team. Mikko Rantanen and Jason Robertson for the Stars, and then Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy for the Wild. It's whichever one of those, I think whichever one of those two duos can get on the board more is going to win the series. I think you have to rely on your stars. Obviously, you have to rely on depth too, but your stars just become so much more important in the playoffs. Again, that is stars with the lowercase s, not the actual team. But I think your superstars become way more important in the playoffs, and you have to shut down the other team's superstars while hoping that your superstars can absolutely thrive. And we saw it last year against the Vegas Golden Knights. They did the Boldy and Kaprizov. That Boldy Kaprizov, I think it was Eriksson Ek was up the middle line, was unbelievable. Kirill, I'm pretty sure, had 9 points in 6 games played. Boldy had something similar, and if they're together, that's absolutely fantastic. This team is going to absolutely thrive offensively. It'll just be defensively and goaltending. Can they shut them down? That's my other thing too, is that the top defensive pairs is my third X factor here of is Miro Heiskanen going to be back for the Stars for the playoffs? Because if he's not, that is a massive blow to this Stars team. Now, again, they have depth. They are talented for the rest of their roster, but Miro Heiskanen is a very, very talented player for the Stars. And I'm not, the last I had seen was he was out. So I'm not entirely sure. He is listed as day-to-day for the Stars. So as of right now, he is listed as day-to-day. So it'll come down to, if Miro Heiskanen is playing, then it'll come down to him versus Quinn Hughes. And I do think Quinn Hughes is a better defenseman. I think he is probably the second best defenseman in the league behind Cale Makar. So I think those are the 3 X factors, being the goaltenders, and then I think if you want to call it just 2, it'll be the goaltenders and the superstars, the both offensively and defensively. So goaltending and the superstars are, in my opinion, the biggest X factors in this series. If we get to the predictions here, I had a bunch come off the board in this one. I said the Wild do not get a division spot next season. I said that in the past offseason. They obviously did get the Central Division 3 spot. Kirill Kaprizov plays 80-plus regular season games. I think he played 78. He was just shy of that 80 regular season game mark. Said the Wild and Frost finished top 3. Both finished top 3 in their respective leagues. Frost will. The Wild didn't. I said the Wild finished top 2 in the Central Division in 2026. They did not. Said Boldy hits 42-plus goals this season. He did. And then Britta Curl scores double-digit goals next season, which she has. That brings it up to 59 correct out of 139 total predicted for 42%. 3 predictions coming on the board here. I said the Wild beat the Stars in the first round. The Frost make the Walter Cup finals, so they will each win the first round. And then Jesper Wallstedt is the game 1 starter. I think he's going to get the start in net. Welcome to the final segment of episode 62, the Power Rankings segment. Power Rankings is something we do each and every single episode here on the 301 show. We take a topic from Minnesota sports and we rank it from 1 through 10. Some of those previous topics include the best high school hockey tournament games in Minnesota history, the one who got away, the best sports photos, and the numbers that aren't retired that should be, which the number one of that will be changing here, as the number one is about to be retired by the Minnesota Timberwolves. But in today's episode, or if you do want to submit a topic that you want to see me rank, you can leave it in the comments down below. Today's episode will be the top 10 best draft picks in Minnesota sports. And I want to preface this by saying I believe that it is, I rank these based off of the value per pick. So some of these players that are on the bottom of this list are at the bottom because they were higher picks. So you might think that they're better players than some of the ones at the top of the list, and I would agree with you that they are better than some of the players at the top of this list. It's just where they were picked in their draft makes a difference here. So just keep that in mind as we go through this top 10. So at number 10 here, we do have a first round pick. Again, he is ranked at number 10 because he was a first round pick, but I thought still deserved to make this list. At number 10, we have Kirby Puckett. Obviously one of the main, if not the main focal point of the two World Series that the Twins won in 87 and 91. He was a 1982 round 1 pick 3 draft pick by the Twins. At number 9 here, again, he just got his jersey retired by the Timberwolves, or is about to get his jersey retired by the Timberwolves. It's just announced that he's getting it. Number 9 is Kevin Garnett. Again, I still think the best player in Timberwolves history. Again, only at 9 though, can't put him much higher because he was 1995 round 1 pick 5. So that is why I couldn't put him any higher on this list, just because he was projected to be a fantastic player. Number 8 is, again, because the reason he's over Kevin Garnett is because of where he was picked. But number 8 is Justin Morneau. He was a 1999 round 3 pick 89 overall. So he was a round 3 pick and turned out to be an MVP winner. He won an MVP and part of the that early 2000s and 2010s success for the Twins, a massive piece of that. So Justin Morneau comes in at number 8. Number 7 is 1998 round 1 pick 19 is Randall McDaniel. Again, later first round pick, so I was able to put him up here at number 7. At number 6, again, another later first round pick, which is why it's even later, 2 picks later than Randall McDaniel, which is why I'm able to justify putting him at number 6. And he turned into what I believe is the second best wide receiver in NFL history. I think you can't argue that he is outside of the top 4 wide receivers in NFL history. Number 6 is Randy Moss. Again, he was round 1 pick 21 in 1998. So Randy Moss here comes in at number 6. We'll move on to the top 5 here. The top 5, number 5, he was a 1969 round 3 pick 55 overall, Bert Blyleven. Again, another massive piece of the puzzle for the Twins' success. Number 4 here, again, you could argue that maybe 3 and 4 should be switched because number 4 had way better career, but he was picked way earlier, a couple rounds earlier than my number 3 here. But number 4 is Fran Tarkenton. He was drafted in 1961. He was a round 3, pick 29 pick 29. Just not as many teams in the NFL back then, but round 3, pick 29. Number 3, again, I think you could argue that 3 and 4 are basically interchangeable. Again, Fran Tarkenton had more success, but he was a couple rounds, a lot of picks earlier than number 3 being Stefan Diggs. Stefan Diggs was 2015, round 5. He was 146th overall. So that just part of it just made it massive. That's what made the difference for me putting him at number 3. Number 2, he was technically drafted in the entry draft by somebody else, but he was part of the Rule 5 draft by the Twins back in 1999. That was Johan Santana. Again, I believe should be a Hall of Fame player in the MLB. He is not, but 1999 Rule 5 draft for the Twins. Again, that is my one asterisk. He wasn't originally drafted by the Twins, but he was in the Rule 5 draft. And number 1, who I think is the best draft pick in Minnesota sports history, we go to the Wild, and the one hockey entry on this draft. Number 1 is Kirill Kaprizov. It's 2015, round 5. He was 153rd or 135th overall in the 2015 draft. That includes names like Jack Eichel and Connor McDavid, which unfortunately Kaprizov will not be the best player in his draft because Connor McDavid exists. But he was 135th overall, and he has turned into arguably the second best player to come out of that draft class. All right, that'll do it for episode 62 of the 301 show. We do want to thank you for watching the entirety of this episode. Again, the question of the day is, who do you think should start game 1 of the Stars Wild series in net for the Wild? If you did like this video, like it down below, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Both of those things really help me out. Again, comment too where you agree or disagree with me, even if you don't want to ask the question or answer the question of the day. If you have an idea for a power rankings topic, you can email the show or leave it in the comments down below. The email will be listed in the description down below as well. But for all of us here at the 301 show, we'll see you next time for episode 63 of the 301 show.